And here we are, back at the desk with another episode of Off Trail with Luke and Chandler. I'm Luke.
I am Chandler.
And this is Off Trail. Today, we are talking about branding.
Yes.
And it's appropriate because I am a brand shill right now.
Yeah, you are.
I have all of my Go Fast branding on
Goodness me, dude.
for this episode.
Yeah.
I guess disclaimer, I actually don't really work for them. I just love the brand.
Yeah.
And I love my Go Fast. So
Gotta love the Go Fast.
it's really just a way to have fun with the episode.
Yeah.
But hey, Go Fast, if you want to work with me, I'm happy to.
You should do it.
But we're talking about branding yourself on social media today.
Yeah.
And, we've had some people ask us about this. And I know at least I myself, and right now, at the time of this filming, am a very good example of, how we can talk about some of this stuff because I now have 3 accounts. One was my old account, which was what I started everything with. And then I made a new one, which is meant to become my main one.
Yeah.
And then I made a third one that is only for my top-down drone shots. So we can talk about a lot of that. We can talk about general branding and stuff. And I think it'll be a good conversation to have because a lot of people do worry about this in a way. To some degree, I think it's a little silly, but I do understand a lot of the concerns.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've gone through this branding thing a little bit myself. I especially with a lot of my personal page. A lot of people don't know this, but my personal page now used to be like my B-sides page. Bushwhackers was my main Instagram page back in 2020, and then I set up what at the time was called Black Tie Optional, and it was
Love
just
that name.
love that name, and it was just a fun account to put just goofy things on, and then eventually decided just to make it my own, with my own name, make it Chandler Photos, what it is today, and I've done this a couple times. I set up a vehicle page and then changed that a bunch of different times. And
Yeah, you've been working on like that little tertiary account of yours, like trying to figure out how to brand it and stuff and what you can put on there. And
I keep changing my mind.
Yeah,
but
and again, a lot of people go through that.
Yeah.
Johnny's
Johnny's also a good example of that.
Johnny's a good example. I noticed he changed his name again, like Johnny Visuals at one point, right?
I'll kind of make fun of him a little bit. But.
Yeah, but like a lot of people get to the point, and for whatever reason, like you start posting on Instagram. And like for me, I'll use my example with my old account. I was doing a lot of landscapes, portraits, and that was kind of it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I want to like take some shots of my truck. I want to do a different style of edit, but like it just none of it like fit with the page.
Yeah.
And again, maybe we box ourselves in too often, which is why I think to some degree some of this is silly. Like you should feel free to do whatever you want on your page. You shouldn't have to feel obligated to stick to something. But nevertheless, we all kind of feel this at some point. And so, again, in my example, I just made a whole brand new page.
Yeah.
And I transferred the name over to the new one, my main one now, which is, again, the Luke Furman. And with my new one, I kind of am branding it from the start to be what I call a lifestyle page, where I can post literally anything I want.
Yeah.
It's just photos that I'm taking in everyday life. It could be with my truck. It could be of other people. It could be landscapes, any top downs. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And it just allows me the flexibility to kind of, do what I want. But with that one, I'm also trying to keep a consistent edit to it as best I can. I still struggle sometimes with it to try and match certain things. But, like I have that now as like my brand. It's me. It's supposed to be my public facing account. And then my old one, I just kind of turned into, this is my pure photography one.
Yeah.
Like if you were going to get like a print of mine, it's probably going to be from that page.
Yeah.
It's just landscapes and portraits and some top-down drone shots. But it's like, I went through that branding phase because I just, for whatever reason, I felt like I couldn't post some of the stuff I wanted to post on that page.
Yeah. I mean, and, part of me wishes that I had just, when I had gotten into doing photo stuff, that I had kept keeping it kind of mixed, more lifestyle focused, like it originally was. Because I was just posting random things on the channel. I'm talking about the Chandler Photos page, and just kind of random thing, whatever I wanted. And then started doing some product stuff, street stuff, and I was like, this is going to be like my just kind of page for random stuff, lifestyle kind of stuff. And then I just went really hard into landscapes, and it turned into a landscape phase or page. And I love that, you know, because I love landscape photography, and that's kind of my main thing. But I do feel like it limits me a little bit, you know, and at least on what I can share and what I can do. I don't really. It's funny because it's like we do this to ourselves.
Yeah,
And,
it's totally, this pressure is totally self-applied.
Yeah, I don't know why, but like everybody does it. This is something that everybody who is on any kind, you know, Instagram, any other kind of platform, does any kind of thing that's, you know, creative or is you know, within the arts, I guess. We kind of box ourselves into what we do, and we don't let ourselves branch out. But yeah, part of me wishes that I had started and kept going with just doing lifestyle stuff on my main page.
Yeah, and like that's why I made my new one, is because like realistically, a lot of what I do is just like, you know, it's my catchphrase.
Yeah.
On my main account is like capturing this thing called life.
Yeah.
And like I've just always kind of done that. You know, I started shooting photos in the Midwest originally before I moved out here, and I was just trying to get creative with whatever I could. You know, if you go back far enough on my old account, you're going to see photos with me with a broadsword.
Yeah.
You know, in my basement. You know, like it's like I was just trying to get creative, and like, you know, I can still do stuff like that on my new one now, on my main one. And there's a benefit to branding, which is why while to some degree, I don't think it's a huge deal if you focus on trying to do one thing.
Yeah.
But there's a benefit, and that is because you can grow a better following and like just get more traction if you can focus down on something.
Yeah.
And so that's why, like, you know, when we start posting a lot of landscapes, it starts getting a lot of traction. You know, people start expecting that from us. They know what they're going to get from us.
Yeah.
And it's a way to, you know, meet people in certain communities if you're like really just committed to one thing.
Yes. Yeah.
But if you're all over the place, you know, and like there's seemingly no focus with it, then it's hard. And that's why, like, for me, like right away with my new one, I was like, this is going to be anything I want.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to brand it like that. So then it's like I literally can always do anything, and people know that that's what they're going to get.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And I think one thing to, you know, to think about when you're starting to put together, whether it's an Instagram page or whatnot, is what are your goals with it? Like, what are you wanting to do? Are you always going to want to be just landscapes? Are you only going to ever want to do portraits? Or are you at some point going to want to maybe branch out? You know, obviously we can't always know all those answers because, you know, I didn't know 2 years ago that I was going to be doing commercial photography. I didn't know that was a thing. So it's like you can't always tell that. But it is a good thing to think about.
Yeah, and like another kind of aspect with that, and why I, you know, started delineating my accounts the way I did, was because with my old one, the way it was going, where it was just landscapes and portraits primarily, and you know, in a certain style, I was like, well, you know, if the day comes where I want to try and do like brand work or something, this account just doesn't feel like it's right for that.
Yeah.
And so with my new one, because I'm trying to generalize and just make it lifestyle, like, you know, it's more about me, it's my brand, it's what I'm doing in life. And I feel a lot more comfortable making that an account that I can kind of do some of that work with and kind of become, you know, I've said like my influencer-y account.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like using that word, but like if I wanted that option later, you know, down the road, I can do it much more comfortably with that account as opposed to the old one.
Yeah, exactly. You know, this is something that I've had a lot of issues with my personal account because it is so landscape focused. Like I've had brands reach out to me like, "Hey, we want you to do work for us, you know, for us," and they've sent me products and everything, and I am like, I don't know what I can do with this, you know, and it was dumb of me to accept it in the first place, accept some of these products, probably just because I was really excited, like, oh, brands want to work with me, you know, that's exciting, that's fun, but realistically, I was like, I'm not gonna like really promote their stuff on my page, like I'm not gonna give them a post or anything like that, so like, what am I, if that's what they want, you know, why am I doing that?
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't.
And that's why, like, you know, if that's something you want to do, then right from the gate, you kind of have to go in with that expectation, and you know, center your account around something you can add that kind of thing in at some point. But I think there's another point that I would like to make, and it has to do with a little bit of how I started my main one again.
Mm-hmm.
When I was initially thinking, I was like, I need to make a new account because I just need this flexibility with what I'm doing. And I knew I wanted to do this editing style. And when, because it's more like desaturated and softer tones and stuff than my old one's much more contrasty. I knew I wanted to change the style, but I like legitimately had never really tried this style. And I didn't wait for days, months, year to do this, to get the hang of it. It's like the best thing that I could have done was just start.
Yeah.
Like, you start your page. You know, if you're starting new and figuring out how you want to brand yourself, just start.
Yeah.
If you have an idea, it's a general idea, start it and see where it goes. You can play with it as you go.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I've done. It's like I look at some of the original edits on my new account. It's like, okay, that's not quite what I should have done.
Yeah.
But like, it's better than just waiting and never starting.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's the biggest trap a lot of people fall into with not just making an Instagram account or social media, with anything. It's they have this big idea, this dream they want to accomplish, but they never actually start it.
Yeah.
And then it never gets done.
Yeah.
And now they look back, 20 years later, they're like, wow, well, I never did that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad. Like, the best thing you can do for yourself is simply to start.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a kind of an interesting thing to say too, about thinking about, I'm not there yet, but I'm close and just starting. You made a comment. We were talking on a different episode about the idea that I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought a little bit.
This happens to Chandler
This
a
happens
lot.
all the time. The idea that your best self is who you are now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that applies to your Instagram page too.
Yeah.
People can go back, but like if you start your account and maybe you'll have stuff that's not as good on that. I mean, you can look back on my accounts because there's plenty of that.
Yeah.
But the better you get, all that new stuff sits at the top. So like whenever you're at your best stuff is always going to be at the top of your page.
Yeah. And let's be real. Like, like on my old account, I think I have almost 400 posts now. Like, it's just a ton.
Yeah.
No one's scrolling back to post one.
Yeah, not rarely does that ever happen.
No one's doing that.
Yeah.
And so just start. And you might be 5 posts in and your first one may not be the best. You're going to work out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
And people are just going to continue to see you're getting better.
Yeah.
And like, that's something that people want to connect with, is someone who's continually trying to improve themselves. Like, you don't have to be the best right away.
Yeah.
No one expects that.
Yeah.
It's just the way life is.
Yeah.
Like,
in fact, it's kind of funny because I'm a person who loves seeing other people's growth. And so there's been a lot of times where I'll go to different people's pages. If they're a photographer that I, respect and I love their work, I'll go back on their page because I'm like, I want to see where they started at. Because I'm curious, I love seeing that growth. So there are people who do it, but having that growth just makes it so much cooler. Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of cool going back and seeing the not as good stuff. So it should exist, and realistically, it's always going to exist. Whether you're really good now, you're always going to be getting better.
Yeah,
So.
it's just a continual process.
Yeah.
You're going to figure out new ways to shoot, new styles to edit, all that stuff.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's going to show
Yeah.
as you start. But I mean, I feel like that's really all there is to branding. It's like, I think people overthink it
Yeah.
a lot. They want to think of all these neat things and catchphrases and slogans, and it's like, just start it. It's going to come to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Because a lot of times too, I feel like, if you sit around and wait on all this stuff and you're trying to really put together the perfect story, you finally launch it and like, it just seems manufactured.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like genuine.
Yeah.
And people can tell
Yeah.
when you put stuff out and like, it's like, it just seems like he's faking it almost.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I could hope, like with my catchphrase, capturing this thing called life, that people can like actually see I mean that.
Yeah.
In my work, because it is just a lot of everyday moments.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
And you know that one thing that people kind of get a little bit hung up on too, that I think there is somewhat of a solution to get past, is the idea, and this is something you and I have talked about quite a bit, but the idea of, what do I name my page? I mean, obviously yours is the Luke Furman, you have not the Luke Furman. Like, it's very, straightforward. There's some stuff that we've been working on with Bushwhackers, like how do we name different projects and stuff, and how do we brand different things specifically. You know, like with Bushwhackers, that the name Bushwhackers kind of blocks us off a little bit. You know, like we can't do as much stuff as we would like to do, maybe with Bushwhackers, just because of that name. You know, it kind of puts us in a somewhat of a niche or a genre. You know,
yeah.
But if you're finding something, I guess it just comes down to finding out what you want to do. So, and figuring out the kind of stuff that you make, this kind of stuff that you want to make, and building a brand and building a name around that.
Yeah, and I think realistically, like, you know, if you're doing a page that, you know, is your page, like, I would much rather prefer to see like your name in the page. Like that's why I use my name, the Luke Furman.
Yeah.
Truthfully, like just Luke Furman was taken, so I couldn't use that.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, shoot, like I've got to figure out a way to put my name in there still. And so like use your name in it because like it's you, it's your brand.
Yeah.
And people are going to associate that with you.
Yeah.
So like don't shy away from that. You don't have to be super creative and you know have some like
Black tie optional.
Yeah. You know, because ultimately like people may not like associate that with you.
Yeah,
Or like if they are, that's going to take a really long time.
Well, this is what happened with, you know, when I was using Bushwhackers, because like nobody really knew who I was. Part of me did that on purpose. Like I wanted to be anonymous. I didn't want this, you know, like
Well, it's here.
Yeah, it's here now. But, and I just kind of have, you know, I learned to embrace it, and have fun with it, I guess. But, yeah, I was just trying to be really anonymous, but like it took like, I don't know, a year and a half before people kind of started figuring out who I was and getting to know me and what. Like it took a long time, and it kind of put up a little bit of a barrier. Like I don't know, this Bushwhackers guy, you know, like there's a lot of our friends that we know. A couple years ago, we went out on a trip to the Uintas, and our friend Ben Thayer invited me, and the only reason he invited me was because I went and I bought a lens from him. And when I showed up, he thought I was like his neighbor. And I was like, oh, I'm Chandler. And he's like, are you our neighbor? And I was like, no, I'm the Bushwhacker guy. He's like, oh, you're real Bushwhackers. And like he didn't know who I was, you know? And again, you know, he invited me out on this trip because at that point he figured out who I was. We went out on the trip. Everybody just Cole. He called me the Bushwhacker guy. Like everybody just called me the Bushwhacker guy. Nobody actually knew my name. Nobody knew who I was. So that was kind of when I knew like I really need to start leaning into like having my own name and having my own like my personality and having me be my own brand.
Yeah, because that's what people want to connect with.
Exactly.
They want to connect with the person. And so like you shouldn't shy away from showing yourself on social media. And maybe that is primarily like through stories and not necessarily through your own photos. Like maybe you don't want to post photos of yourself. Cool. I don't care about that.
Yeah.
But like, you know, occasionally put yourself on your story, talking to the camera, doing something, whatever. Like just, you know, the other day at the time of this recording, like I put a little video out of me playing guitar. And I don't do that all that often, but it shows people a different side of you that they don't get to see. And it just helps build relationships in that way. Even though if you're not directly talking to someone, they just get to know you. And that's ultimately how you build a good brand that people continue to come back to and want to support.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's something that, you know, we've had a lot of conversations about this with a lot of friends, and there's a point that Johnny has made before where you are the best brand. Like the best brand that you can make is you.
Yeah.
So
and don't fake it.
Yeah.
Like just be you.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if you want to, you know, change, you know, parts of who you are, then do that. That's great.
Yeah.
But like, don't do it just for social media.
Yeah. No.
Do it because you want to be a better person, like improve yourself, whatever.
Yeah.
And like really just lean into, you know, being you in front of other people.
Yeah.
You know, we go out, like I don't try to change who I am. You know, we made this point on another podcast. It was like, you know, a lot of people don't know that I have a math degree. And like, you know, I'm kind of a nerd.
Yeah.
But I don't lean into that because that's really not who I am.
Yeah.
Like in large part. But it's like I don't like try to force that side out. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I mean that's branding really. You know, it's I think the few important things. It's like try to figure out what you want to do. Like what your focus is. You know, that's big because it affects like maybe how you want to name your channel. You know, and the kind of content you're going to be putting out. That's big. I would say editing style is another one.
Yeah.
You know, you just got to figure out how you want to edit.
Yeah.
You know, that's a big reason why I wanted to change mine is because I wanted a new outlet to edit differently and just try new things. And I love it now. It's awesome. So those two. And then I think that third point is just start.
Yeah.
Like your goals, your dreams are not going to wait for you.
Yeah.
You have to like actually start them now.
Yep. Exactly.
You know, do a little prep work, you know, get yourself ready, but don't just keep pushing it off until one day comes around.
Yeah.
Like you got to start now, sometime.
Yeah.
And it may as well be today.
Yeah. And there's actually one other point that I want to add on to that. So start now and start with you being you. And then if you get to a point where you're like, I want to start something separate and I want to start, maybe I want to change some stuff, you can always change things.
Yeah.
But if you start with you and if you start with letting people know who you are, it makes that change so much easier. Because, you know, when you started your new page, you had already built up a reputation and you had already built up this personality of, you know, Luke Furman on Instagram. And so when you made the second account, everybody was like, oh, yeah, I know Luke. I'm going to go follow Luke. That's his new account. That's what he's doing.
Yeah.
So,
It's like a solid base of new followers, you
Yeah.
know? And same thing with my new one is my From Above collection for only top-down stuff. You know, that's a very specific set of photography that I do
yeah.
that I just had way too much content for to ever get out on my other pages, and I just need a new page for it.
Yeah.
And so I have that now too, but people know it's me
Yeah.
for the most part.
Exactly. And that's one thing that's cool about, you know, what we do as, you know, creatives, photographers, videographers, anything, is there's always room for us to do so many other things. We can do whatever we want. So just start.
Yeah, you got to get started.
Yeah.
And I think the best way that you can get started is to go subscribe to our YouTube channel.
That is a great way.
Yeah, go
Yeah.
like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel because that helps us out more than anything else. And leave a comment if you have gone through, you know, a branding change and have some advice for other people. We'd love to hear it. You know, we want to build up a wealth of knowledge about this kind of a subject and other things that we can help share with other people.
Yeah.
So if you got something to add to the conversation, please do. We're also on all major podcasting platforms if you prefer to listen to audio only. So make sure you go follow us there as well. Be a great podcast to play during your morning commute.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So I think that's all we got for today.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys later.
Peace.